Today, new technology makes it easier than ever to be an entrepreneur. Just as the internet lets Roomorama connect tourists to people who want to rent rooms and apartments, a new smartphone app called Lyft connects people who want a taxi ride with people who have a car and some free time. The driver makes some money, the passenger saves some. Great, everyone wins. Well, not the established taxi companies, so they turn to government regulators. Last year, California fined Lyft for operating as passenger carriers without evidence of public liability coverage on file with the CPUC, failing to enroll drivers in the employer pull notice program, and so on and on. This is a matter of public safety, said the regulator. So is Lyft a public safety problem? We asked special correspondent Kennedy to check it out. She became a Lyft driver. She had to go through a background check, an in-person interview, a check of her car for safety and insurance, and after that, she was in business.
Your Lyft has arrived.
Passengers are encouraged to get in the front seat because that's friendlier, says the company, and drivers are supposed to give a fist bump.
Hello, fist bump.
Hello, fist bump.
You're Corey.
Corey, yes.
And you're?
Alex.
Alex and Corey. Fantastic. Where are we going?
Kennedy did not put this ridiculous mustache on her car just to mock me. All Lyft drivers use them. It's a way to identify Lyft cars. After Kennedy dropped off her first passengers,
Have fun, you guys.
she then checked her phone to see who else wants a ride.
Oh, we got another one. It's just like fishing. Welcome to the ride.
Passengers saved money. They paid less than normal taxi fare. Kennedy made some money and gets to keep most of that. She's happy.
This is so much fun.
Passengers are happy.
It was amazing. Quick, easy, fun, very sociable.
So this was a good experience?
This is the perfect marriage of entrepreneurship and capitalism and technology. This was a great experience. I would use this platform. It's so easy to use, and it was really, really fun to be a driver.
All right, so how does it work? No money changes hands. It's all by credit card.
Yeah, you put your credit card information into the Lyft application. You also have to have a Facebook account that matches your credit card number so they know you're a real person, and they check your Facebook friends to make sure you're not a minor or a sicko.
And over time, drivers rate passengers if there's a passenger who's a problem?
Yes, it's like eBay or Airbnb or these other companies where you have incentive to deliver a good service and to be a good customer. You rate each other. So when a passenger got out of the car, they rated me. When they got out of the car, I rated them.
And how does Lyft make money?
Lyft makes money by donation. I think that's one of the ways they're able to operate.
They call it a donation, not a cab fare.
And I don't know if it's, some sort of charitable organization and that's how they skirt taxes or liability or whatever. But whatever the case, on your phone, you decide what the donation is. There's a suggested donation for however long or far your ride was, and you can add, they don't call it a tip, but you can add a little something onto that.
And if you're cheap or don't pay the recommended amount, the next driver knows and might not go to pick you up.
That's another incentive for being a good customer because you're bumped up in the queue if one of the drivers is looking for people, A, who donate well, or B, rate drivers with a high star rating.
So the regulators said this is a public safety threat.
You know what? When we get in our cars, it's a safety concern. It's the most dangerous thing we do, but some people don't want to drive, and they don't want to pay money every single time for a taxi. It's a great alternative.
And they did check you out?
Oh, the background check was so thorough. We actually had to wait an entire week to shoot the segment because you go through a criminal background check, a DMV check. You have to show proof of insurance and your driver's license. They have my social security number, so I'm actually a little worried about that.
Why do they have to have these things?
Oh, come on. You know the power of the stash. Need you ask? I mean,
so
it's great branding. So people see the pink mustache like, what is that? I see these all over the place. And that's how you know your Lyft has arrived. So not only can you see on your phone your car is approaching, you look up, you see the pink stash, and like when I see you, heaven on earth, angels are singing.
So far, Lyft's only in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, Chicago, but they're expanding rapidly. This sounds great. I love this idea.
It's a great idea. It really is. It's so easy to use. You don't have to pull out any cash, and drivers and customers are thrilled with the service.
Thank you, Kennedy. Let's hope the regulators don't kill it off. Next, some more good news. Once or twice, government has actually repealed regulations, and the result? great. Consumers save money, businesses innovated. We'll tell that story next. This pile of rules is just as damaging or worse, because sometimes taxes get cut, but the rules, they never get cut. They just pass more of them, thousands of new pages every year. Is there no hope? Well, there is, because when I said rules are never cut, that's not entirely true. A couple times in American history, bureaucrats have actually said, let's repeal something. And the results have been terrific. Economists Wayne Layton and Edward Lopez write about that in their book, Madmen, Intellectuals, and Academic Scribblers. So what's this title mean?
Academic scribblers are people who come up with ideas, new ideas. Think of some professor at a university somewhere. Those ideas do nothing until they're picked up and made popular. This is the role of intellectuals. Intellectuals may be writers for the Wall Street Journal or New York Times. They could be talk show hosts, preachers, teachers, even television show hosts. John Stossel. They're people who take ideas and spread them out. And they say, those ideas, those are dangerous, but that idea, that's something to make popular. And as
the
becomes
madmen?
the madmen are politicians, people who hold the levers of political power. And when an idea becomes very popular, madmen have every incentive in the world to give the people what they want.
Well, why do you call them madmen? They're not all madmen.
It's a play on words from a phrase by John Maynard Keynes, the gentleman who gave us more government spending from the 1930s. He said, madmen in authority, who are voices in the air, are simply distilling the frenzy of some academic scribbler.
All right, well, let's talk about these few wonderful times when rules were removed. Airlines.
Airlines used to be regulated, the fares that people would pay, by the federal government. And in the 70s and 80s, we went to the open market, and what has happened since? Good things have happened.
From 1930s to the 70s, there was the Civil Aeronautics Board, and no airline could raise a price or change a route without their permission. And no new airlines were approved all that time. No JetBlue, no Southwest was allowed to compete. And this was changed by, of all people, Teddy Kennedy.
Teddy Kennedy was one of the madmen in authority who saw an opportunity to create a different set of rules that govern this industry and make a name for himself in his political career.
And what probably woke Senator Kennedy up is that he was in Boston, flying to Washington, and he noticed, hey, the fare is $196 in today's dollars, but LA, San Francisco, about the same distance, the fare is less than half that. What's going on?
The LA San Francisco market was within the state of California, therefore not regulated by the federal government. Boston, D.C., that's travel that crosses state lines. That means the Civil Aeronautics Board has jurisdiction. They regulate, they set the fares, and those fares were higher.
More than twice the size. So even politicians could understand that. They deregulated. Prices are so much lower now. In today's dollars, the price is about a third of what it was.
If you look at the data across the board, in the last 30 years, airline fares are down 50%, and that includes the baggage fees that we're paying now.
Another good news story is in the 70s, there was something called the Interstate Commerce Commission, which did what?
The Interstate Commerce Commission regulated shipping by truck and by railroad. And
they said, we have to, or you'll be overcharged by these greedy companies.
People say that regulation is protecting consumers from greedy companies overcharging them. But when you actually look at what happens, shipping rates were very high under the ICC. And once the ICC was removed of its power initially, and then eventually abolished in 1995, what happened to shipping rates? They went down just like airline rates did.
The politicians said, you can't deregulate, the rates will go way up. They went down.
That's right.
So our final example of one of these rare deregulatory processes, this one's still going on, the spectrum.
It started in the 1930s. The politicians had administrative hearings, which basically meant one bureaucrat said, you get it and you do not. And this went on for decades. Then the federal government moved to lotteries, which basically meant someone literally won the lottery, got the license. Finally, in the 1990s,
and then sold it for a ton of money.
A little old lady wins the auction, wins the license at a lottery, and then sells it to AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile, makes millions.
But now the academics said, auction them off.
Some professor named Ronald Coase at the University of Chicago goes on to win a Nobel Prize. But when he proposed this idea, he was ignored. Officials at the Federal Communications Commission that regulates the airwaves actually mocked him.
And yet it happened. It took unbelievably long. It was even supported by President Carter and President Reagan and President Bush, but finally could only happen under President Clinton.
The push came when they needed the money. President Clinton wanted to balance the budget. The Republicans in Congress also liked that idea. Where's the money going to come from? It wasn't about being more efficient. You had that final push. We can actually raise billions of dollars for the Treasury. Let's try this.
So it can happen if the politicians think they'll make more money from it, or if you get the Democrats involved.
That's the story.
Thank you, Wayne Layton and Edward Lopez. Next, how cheap bus travel and the wonderful website InTrade were both killed by the politicians' war on the little guy.